Hello, hello, and welcome to Digital Marketing This Week. It is episode number 37, How to Deal with Information Overload. It's, of course, brought to you by Seriously Simple Marketing over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. My name is Chris Mercer. I'm, of course, a specialist with analytics and optimization, split testing, all that fun stuff. I also develop most of the content over at Seriously Simple Marketing. You'll see I'm the author there. And then, of course, the host of Digital Marketing This Week. And yes, just call me Mercer. I actually was at a conference last week, and somebody was asking me about that because there's always another Chris in the room. So it makes it kind of easier if I go by Mercer. And so sure enough, we were talking about this exact topic. Somebody screams Mercer from like across the room. I turn around and I'm like, see, that's exactly why we do that. So yeah, just feel free to call me Mercer. Okay, this week's focus topic is all about information overload. Now, before we dive in, I do want to remind those of you who are watching this either pre-recorded on YouTube or if you're catching it on a podcast, you can join the Insiders Club. And what happens is after we sort of cover this topic, we kind of jump off the virtual stage and we hang out with everybody in the chat room and answer questions about digital marketing or today's topic or analytics or whatever they need help with till the top of the hour. So again, it's free digital marketing this week. It's called the Insiders Club. Just go to seriouslysimplemarketing.com. You will see plenty of ways to sign up there. Okay, your goal is to get one idea, to act on that one idea, and then of course to repeat the process. Now, when it comes to information overload, and again, I find myself saying the same thing over and over again, right? So that's why we emphasize it every episode. One idea, act on the one idea, then repeat the process. You do not need a million ideas. And we'll get into why in just a few minutes here. But with this episode, you might pick up a few different things that you can do that might help you with information overload. Just choose one of those things. Make it your own by taking action, by practicing that skill, and then go back. Okay. And then you can pick up another idea and repeat that process. That's how you build. That's how you build habits. It's how you change the pattern that you're currently using. Now, why should you care about today's episode? Well, of course, today we're going to talk about an understanding of why you get overloaded in the first place. We're going to give you some tips to simplify the process and hopefully to prioritize what needs to be done when, and hopefully you'll find a few other tips as well. All right, so let's dive into it. This is all about how to deal with information overload. Okay, so let's talk about information overload. First, what causes it? Now you see here, we've got a little graphic that's on the page where somebody's sort of hitting this domino, which hits a bigger domino, which hits a bigger domino until finally the domino sort of crashes right on top of you. And that's what happens. You feel like you kind of do these small little steps and it leads in these bigger steps. Now, there's always a pattern to this, always a pattern to this. And the challenge with information overload is it creates such a feeling of overwhelm. And I'm speaking from experience, right? So it creates such a feeling of overwhelm in my own body where I just need to shut down, get in the fetal position in the corner of a room and just like sit there and hope everything goes away because you just can't take action anymore. Well, what causes that point is this little teeny pattern, right, that you initiate and then finally gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes overwhelming and it takes you back over. So that's what we want to talk about. Now, if you want a different result, very, very quick and easy, adjust the pattern. So don't do this, don't repeat the same pattern. Don't take the same triggers or the same steps that you have been taking. And part of this is just becoming aware of this in the first place. Because a lot of people, I know I didn't, I had no idea that I was actually doing this to myself. But when you actually become hyper aware of what your actions are and what your mindset is and the thoughts that you're having, you will very much see that it is a pattern and it's something that you can stop yourself and replace with another pattern. Okay, so let's talk about how to do that. First, big but, mindset is everything. Okay, so this doesn't start with the actual triggers, and most people try to do that. They try to sit there and say, okay, well, I'm going to do this technique or that tactic, or I'm going to take this tip. But the problem is your mindset is everything, and you really need to have a sit with yourself and talk about where things are coming from. Okay, so let's talk about that now. This might feel a little woo-woo, and for those law of attraction fans, you're going to love this, and for the skeptics out there, you're going to be like, okay, this is enough of this. But let's talk about this in a different sense. We're talking, of course, about abundance versus scarcity. Okay, so you've got this abundance mindset, you have a scarcity mindset. Now, these things, at least again, my opinion, these are real. These are something that, and I'm not talking about the woo-woo law of attraction where you sit there and think yourself rich. It's not about that. But there are thoughts that are rooted in abundance, and there are thoughts that are rooted in scarcity. I'll give you an example. So you might have this thought that you need more training so you can grow, right? Well, that's all well and good, but it's really coming from this thought of I'm going to miss out if I don't take action, right? I'm going to miss out if I don't subscribe to this person's email. I'm going to miss out if I don't show up for this webinar. I'm going to miss that next technique, right? I'm going to miss this next, if I don't buy this tool, I'm not going to have whatever it is that's going to help me grow my business. And all of those are this missing out. It's a scarcity mindset. And if you think about the thought that causes this, right? So it's the source of the thoughts that causes this. It's absolutely, without a doubt, scarcity. Okay, it's this feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do it unless I do this. Now, as marketers, speaking marketer to marketer, it's our job to get people in that mindset, right? Scarcity is one of the biggest plays there is when it comes to emotions. It's a really easy hot button to hit, and marketers are really good at hitting it, right? We're marketers and we're marketing to other marketers, and we're really good at hitting it. They're good at hitting you too. And so when you're going through this, if you're feeling that, it's because they've messaged you to do that. Okay, you're just falling right in line with whatever their pattern is. That's what their emails are written to do. That's why they want you to take these actions. But deep down, I want you to think about it. If you're coming and you're subscribing to this part of again, jumping on the list or grabbing the next new tool or have to attend the new webinar or gotta subscribe to their blogs or all this other stuff that might feel like, okay, I've got enough on my plate, but I have to do this, because if I don't add more to my plate, then I'm gonna miss out. If you start feeling like that, just realize you're in the scarcity mindset. And what happens is, because you are rooted in that mindset to begin with, it will inevitably create overwhelm. It is the absolute dirt, it's the soil that pattern is planted in. And so if you're planting in soil that's scarcity mindset oriented, you will reap plants that are scarcity mindset. Your thoughts are gonna be scarcity mindset. Your actions will be scarcity mindset. Actions like subscribing to 1 million emails, hopefully just so you can figure out the next new latest technique so you can get ahead of the competition. Like you don't need to do that, okay? So let's talk about the other. This is this abundance pattern, okay? So now this is where it's rooted in abundance. This is where you're thinking thoughts like there's always more. Okay, and here's what I mean by that. So there's always more ways to get traffic. Okay? And these are my personal beliefs, and if you find them helpful, adopt them. But there is always more ways to get traffic. There is always going to be a new latest greatest tool that comes out to help me do that, whether it's for Facebook advertising or for Twitter advertising. There's always going to be another course that will help me to get something done that I need to be done for my business, whether it's a conversion analytics tool maybe that I need to purchase. There's always going to be another one. So I don't have to buy the one right now. This is a firm belief that I have. I don't have to buy the one right now because there's going to be another one right behind it, right? And you have to think like this in order to adjust your pattern. Because what happens when somebody asks, okay, well, now I need you to subscribe to my emails because you're going to lose out. My thought patterns go, okay, well, there's always more lists to subscribe to. There's always going to be more of those. So if now's not the right time for me, it's not a problem. And I can think sanely because of that thought pattern, because of where this thought is planted. Again, in this fertile soil of abundance now. Right? And so I'm thinking from this mindset of, hey, there's always more, there's always another opportunity. It's not a problem. I don't have to do this right now. Now, there are times where, let's say, for example, I wanted to learn about Facebook traffic because it was time for our business to talk about Facebook traffic. And that made sense for our business because that's where we were. So if that's the stage we're in, and somebody says, hey, here's this course we have on Facebook, I will absolutely take a look at it because it's the proper time for me to take a look at it. But if somebody's saying, hey, listen, you're gonna have to start advertising on Facebook, and let's say I'm just trying to learn WordPress, right? And now they'll say, hey, you gotta take this Facebook traffic course because everyone's doing Facebook and it's the next latest greatest thing and it's super cheap and oh my God, you have to do it right now, right? When you start getting caught up in that, it's scarcity kicking in. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss out. And I feel that, right? I actually have that by lots of practice. This is not an easy thing, but it is fairly simple. But with lots of practice, you can feel that kind of within you. Go, wait a second, okay, I'm getting caught up in the hype. I'm getting caught up in the scarcity. That's not really there. There's always another course on how to do Facebook, and I don't need to learn Facebook right now. So I'm not going to worry about this message, and I'm not going to subscribe to their stuff or take their course or anything like that. So that's sort of, again, a little bit about the whole abundance and scarcity. Remember, your actions are a choice. So this information overload, right? This feeling of overwhelm, it can feel powerlessness, right? It can feel completely like this feeling of overwhelming powerlessness because you don't know how to stop it. There's so much stuff out there and you're in this pattern of constantly having to collect things. And you're almost like this digital hoarder in a lot of ways. And I'm speaking from experience. That's what I did. I did what everybody does. You start out, you find this whole new wide world of digital marketing and online marketing. And you're like, oh, we need to buy this tool and this course and subscribe to this person's blog post because they're great. They have a PDF book and I'm going to buy this ebook and this ebook. And how many of those things you actually read? Probably 3% of them, right? How many courses have you bought that you never opened? I've done it a lot. And every time I did it, it was because I came from the scarcity mindset of like, oh, I'm going to miss out. I should get this course. Well, all that ended up doing was just adding more stuff to my plate that I really didn't need to do. And so your actions are always a choice. When you take responsibility for those actions, when you sit there and you can think to yourself, okay, is this something that can help me right now? Is it something that's absolutely needed for my business right now? And again, this could be if you're working with a small team, maybe it's something that somebody in your team can do. That's also great, right? You can buy it for them. But if that's not where you are right now, you're just a solopreneur trying to figure everything out. If you don't need that shiny new Facebook traffic course, just skip it on by, right? That's an action. And that action, that practicing of that, being aware of whether you need something or not, all of a sudden, even if you are completely overwhelmed right now, it's less overwhelming that next day because you didn't stick more on your plate. And information overwhelm happens because you keep adding more than you can process. It's an absolute fact. That's what happens. So you have all this different information that you already can't handle, and you're in this pattern of collecting and hoarding. And then so you start adding more and more and more that you can't handle, and you have overwhelm. You have information overload. And so when you take these actions of, okay, you know what, not today. I don't need to do this. I'm not adding more to my plate. Well, you're still processing what's already on your plate. So that next day you feel a little bit better, right? It may not be a lot better, maybe just a teeny bit better, but you do feel a little bit better. And if you keep that pattern going, where you're not adding so much to your plate that you can't handle, all of a sudden you're processing more than you're actually adding to your plate to get to the point where you're caught up. And then you can probably think a little clearer, right? You can think a little more sanely because you're not freaking out all the time. And you can make better decisions, and the decisions just get better and better and better. And that same domino theory works, except now it's working in your benefit, right? So it's completely to your benefit now because you're taking these positive choices, these positive actions, because you're aware of where you're taking them from. All right. So again, abundance versus scarcity. You're looking at that going, okay, where is this thought coming from? If it's a feeling of missing out and that's why you feel you have to do it, just deny that action right there because it doesn't lead anywhere. There's nothing that's good that's ever generated from that. If it's a feeling of, hey, you know what, I got plenty to do and I'm good right now, I don't need to do it, then you can take that action. If, however, that same, let's say again, using that Facebook course example, if that comes through and you think to yourself, well, hey, listen, I'm actually ready to learn Facebook. I should be learning Facebook because we need more traffic coming to our site. And I need to take Facebook traffic courses because the site's built, we've got our offer up, but no eyeballs are coming to the site. So let's work on Facebook advertising. Now's the perfect time. That's still abundance. So go ahead and take the course or subscribe to the blog or buy the ebook. All right, so enough about abundance and scarcity. Let's talk about how you go through and do this, right? Now, this is something I'm sort of rephrasing or hopefully explaining properly kind of what their original intention was. But the guys over at Internet Business Mastery, they have this thing they call just-in-time learning, which is great, right? So it's a riff off of just-in-time inventory, which is a big manufacturing thing. So people that are in manufacturing, they produce enough inventory for them to process what they have at that time, but they don't stockpile inventory. Right. And in the same way, we need to think about that when it comes to learning. So you do just-in-time learning. And so instead of hoarding all of these digital courses, because you want to have this inventory of training so that one day you can go back and do it all when you're ready for it, right? You think like a lean manufacturer and you say, okay, well, I'm just going to take the training that I need right now. Right. And that includes anything. That's not just paid courses. That's not just ebooks you pay for, but it's anything that you subscribe to, any action that's overloading your email box, right? All those little things. So you think about it again, in terms of step 1 and step 2. And let's kind of walk through an example here. So let's say you're just sort of starting out. Well, your first step might be to learn WordPress. Okay, so everything that you're subscribed to, everything that you're working on, everything that you're listening to, podcasts that you subscribe to, all this different stuff, they're about WordPress. They're about building a website. They're about learning how to do posts, learning how to do pages, what the difference between the two is. They're learning about how to put an opt-in form on your page. They're building out how to do graphics, right? How to insert video, all that sort of stuff that you need to do in order to get your very first WordPress site up. Right, so then you sort of do that. Now, once you get past that, and that's all you do, you don't worry about Facebook traffic because it's not the time for traffic. It's all about WordPress now. So once you get the WordPress done, maybe then you start looking around for traffic. Okay, I've got my site up. Now I've got to worry about traffic. Now that might mean for your particular situation, you want to do social media advertising. So you look around for some Facebook stuff, right? Or some Facebook stuff finds you. It might also mean maybe it's YouTube, right? Or Pinterest or AdWords, or maybe it's just about, doing free blog comments everywhere and trying to do that. But whatever that technique is that you're trying to do to generate traffic, that's what you focus on right at that point. You're not worrying about how do I learn how to build the perfect post anymore because you know how to build a post. You know how to update graphics, and you don't go back and learn that. You don't go back and buy more courses on WordPress because you don't need that. What you need now is traffic. So you start focusing on eyeballs. Now, once you've got the traffic there, now it starts moving into conversions, okay? So now you're talking about, okay, let's make sure I've got my traffic coming to the site. Now maybe you start getting into more analytics-oriented stuff. Then you start going into Google Analytics and start making sure all your tracking is set up properly so you can understand exactly how many people are converting into leads, or exactly how many people are converting into purchases, where they're coming from. And then you start worrying about split testing and crafting different headlines and learning to make your offer better. Okay, that's the whole conversions thing. So anything that's around that, any sort of courses or ebooks or practice or blogs that you're subscribing to, they should all be around that. And the traffic stuff, once again, you have it figured out, just sort of put it on the back burner. You don't need that as much anymore. Once you move on past conversions, it's all about the next offer. And that's what kind of continues this process. At that point, it's just, rinse and repeat. So maybe in conversions, it's, again, maybe you're adding an offer to your sales funnel, right? So you're coming up with a higher end coaching offer, you're developing the next product that you're putting out as a completely separate thing. Maybe it's a whole separate site. So there are lots of ways that you can go about and do this, but you can see each step of the way, you're just focusing on what you need right then at that exact time. And that's it, just that, because there's always more. There's always going to be courses on conversions. There's always going to be courses on traffic. There's always going to be ways to get a next new offer. That will always be there. It's like this sea of never ending information that will always be there, and probably gets cheaper and cheaper every day if you were looking at buying stuff. So don't let that sway you. It's just more of just, okay, when you're ready, you're going to go learn how to do a next offer. When you're ready, you're going to learn how to do conversions. When you're ready, you're going to learn how to do traffic. But maybe you're just at WordPress, so you focus on that. All right, so let's kind of summarize some of the key points here. So first of all, information overload is the result of actions that are rooted in scarcity. There is really no other way to do it. If your actions are rooted in the sense of abundance, that you have plenty of time and there's plenty out there and you can always go back and do something or something else, then you won't have information overload, because you will naturally choose to not take action on certain things, because it's okay to not take action if there's plenty out there and it will always be out there. Okay, so think about that. If you're feeling overloaded or overwhelmed, it's coming from that scarcity. Just be aware of what that initial thought was, and that way, the more aware you are, and don't get me wrong, you're not gonna be perfect at this right away. I sure wasn't, but when you start out, you can start thinking to yourself, okay, what is this thought? Even if you make and this is almost the best scenario, what if you make a bad choice again? Like right after this, you're kind of like, yes, I'm not going to be information overloaded. And then sure enough, somebody sends you an ebook in an hour and you're like, oh my God, I got to buy the ebook because I want to have, just in case. I want to have it just when I'm ready. I'm going to go back and learn about Facebook. And you do it. Well, then just stop yourself. Just be aware, forgive yourself, and kind of like, okay, well, I slipped up, but where did that come from? Can I replay that pattern in my head, right? What were the series of thoughts that led to that? And where were they ultimately rooted? Did I have that feeling of missing out, right? And if you did, if it came from that, you kind of go, oh, okay, that's what that feels like. And you're more aware of it for the next time. And there will be a next time. There will be a lot of next times, lots of opportunities to practice this. So again, that goes kind of in the abundance way, but there's always opportunities to practice this. So remember, when you're thinking about how to get out of this, you just accept the fact that there is always another opportunity. Always another opportunity, and that you're going to be able to help in this opportunity itself, right? It's going to be able to help you build your business in the perfect way at the perfect time. Now think about that thought for just a minute, right? There's always another opportunity that's going to help you build your business in the perfect way at the perfect time. Just having that as a mindset alone, even if you just pretend it's true, even if you're kind of like skeptical at this point, like, oh, I don't even know, just pretend it's true. It's a lot more relaxing than dealing with, oh, I got to catch up on everything. Oh my God, this new person just came out with this new tool and I have to learn all about traffic, right? Or whatever it is. And there's always going to be another tool because that's what their job is. But I tell you, just being in this business for years and years and years, most of this stuff is not new. Most of the stuff in the future will not be new. It'll all be rehashed content from just, that's, how to get traffic. Like there's only really one way how to get traffic, right? Let's say it's talking about Facebook advertising. There's just one way to do Facebook advertising. You use the ad manager, you pay Facebook, and that's it. You learn how to do targeting. Like it's pretty basic, and everybody else just sort of rehashes the same thing over and over again with different techniques on how to do that, but it really is just the same thing. So there's always going to be a new technique. There's always going to be something else, and when you're ready for it is when that's the perfect way, right? That'll be the perfect time for you. All right, so let's give you, and I'm gonna kind of pull it back down now because I know I can kind of get a little woo-woo and little more ethereal, right? Tough to grasp. But let's talk about something you can actually do today. And I'm going to focus on the number one thing that I started doing with my email, because that is where information overload happens. And it still, to be honest, happens to me today. I am by no means perfect at this, but I am better than the average bear when it comes to this. So here are my 2 tips for you when it comes to email. Unsubscribe aggressively and filter aggressively, right? And here's what I mean by unsubscribe aggressively. So if you find yourself deleting email, and I've gone through this, I have this little morning purge routine, right? So you kind of get out of bed, you check your phone, you get your smartphone out or whatever, and you're checking your email, and I'm not even opening them. I'm just like, I just know I'm not interested in this stuff, right? And I delete them. But the reason I'm not unsubscribing is because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but I might be. I'm not interested in this one, but I might be interested in the next one, right? And okay, maybe there's some truth to that if it's something that's related to something that I'm trying to learn today about Facebook traffic or something like that. But a lot of the times it's not. And so what I find myself doing is I'm doing that for weeks sometimes. I'm never opening their emails, right? For weeks, and they might send daily emails. Well, if I find myself doing that, I'm kind of like, okay, I need to unsubscribe because I'm pretty sure they're going to let me back in. And think about that. Unsubscribe is not forever, right? You can always go back. They will always let you back into their new list. I promise you. So just unsubscribe. And if you want, keep a little text document of all the different sites where you unsubscribe from, if it makes you feel better, because you don't want to lose that special source, right? And these are just tricks, because to be honest, you're going to create that list and you're never going to look at it again. But mentally, it gives you this permission to feel like, okay, yes, I unsubscribed, but I'm not gone forever. I'm still going to write, right? I'm still going to stay in touch. And so that helps. Now, the other thing you can do is with filters, and various email clients do various things. I use Gmail because we use Google Apps for work. But with Gmail, you can filter. So what I do is I say, okay, anything that comes from, whoever at reallycooldomain.com or at a reallycoolfacebookcourse.com, whatever the thing is, I will say, okay, any email that ends in at anycoolfacebookcourse.com, then assign it to what they call a label in Gmail. It's basically just a folder if you're using something like Outlook. And then you assign it to that folder, right? Assign it to, okay, Facebook course information or Facebook traffic information. And what's really cool about these filters with Gmail is I can actually have it automatically be labeled to that folder and archive it so it skips the inbox. I can even mark it as read, which is kind of nice because there are, and this is a thing you should also do as well, right? Maybe not now, if now's not your time, but email list hygiene is important. So if people find that I'm not opening their emails, eventually they should be kicking me off their list. That's a good practice when it comes to email marketing. So if I haven't opened their emails in 3 or 4 months, they probably shouldn't be emailing me as much because it's not helpful for them and it's going to hurt their deliverability. So what I do with these filters is you mark the message as read. That sends a signal back to their ISP like, okay, yes, he wants this, he read it, but he just didn't take action on it. That's fine, but at least he read it. And I will continue to get their messages for eternity as long as they send them. Meanwhile, Gmail is quietly, what's really happening is I basically forgot that they even sent me messages, right? But they're there. And here's what this is just 100% trick, right? A mind trick. So you're convincing yourself that you're going to go back and you're going to check this stuff, right? So this is your way of digitally hoarding, but fortunately, that doesn't take a whole lot of room, right? So I can digitally hoard hundreds of different emails, and I've done this. I'm sure I'm subscribed to probably 500 or 600 different email lists, right, of the course of these years, where I am now just assigning it to a filter and it skips the inbox and I never go back to it. And the reason I did it that day was because I just didn't have the strength to unsubscribe, right? But I did have the strength to filter and go, okay, well, when I'm ready, I can go search for that stuff and then I'll have it there. So maybe it's a really good blog. And I'll give you an example. So the social media, there's Social Media Examiner, which is a really great blog on social media tips. Well, maybe I subscribe to their list, but I don't need social media tips right now because that's not important for our business, right? That's not what we're doing. So if that's the case, I just filter Social Media Examiner. I archive it, I have it read, I mark it as read and I archive as messages. And so whenever I go back to that folder, right, or that label as they call it in Gmail, I can go back to that and have all those messages just waiting there for me whenever I want, right? But I don't have to delete them every morning. I don't have to open up this email. And here's what's such an important concept with this. That's all happening in the background. I never see the emails. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm not staring at 700 emails. And that's what used to happen. It used to be hundreds of emails I would stare at every morning. And as I was deleting emails, there was almost a period of time, especially in that little 6 to 8 o'clock hour, where everyone else is sending new emails in the morning. And so if I get up a little earlier, I'm deleting out emails, I refresh the screen, and there's a whole slew of more back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is my life, right? Like this is too much. And every email is screaming at you to get it to open, because that's what we do, right? That's email marketing. That's fine. That's what we want. But instead of that, if you just aggressively filter or aggressively unsubscribe, if you have the strength, and again, if you don't, no harm, no foul. I don't. I'll be honest. I don't unsubscribe to a lot of stuff. There are some things I definitely will, but it's when I find myself deleting over and over and just realizing, okay, I can always go back, right? And I'm getting better at the unsubscribe. But I started with the filter stage, and I still do use that trick a lot. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to filter you, and I'll come back to you when I'm ready. But at least I know you're there. Right? It's that feeling of again, it's still a feeling of a little bit of scarcity, admittedly, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, just in case I don't want to miss out, so I'm going to keep you here. But it all of a sudden, it just the fact that it's not there doesn't show up anymore, and then it helps me make better thoughts with my day, because I'm not having to deal with 300 emails. And I think the number one thing that I hear from most people is just having to deal with all that stuff, you know. All right, so let's go ahead and summarize again. What was the one idea, right? So we want to kind of bring this to a conclusion. Was it the idea of the pattern? Because there's a lot of people that just don't realize that it is a pattern, and that's all it is. It is not your fault that you're doing this. It's the pattern that you're doing that is doing this. That's all. So if you want a different result, you just change that pattern. Was it the fact of the just-in-time learning thing, where you just focus on, WordPress skills, if that's where you are, or traffic skills, or conversion skills, right, or product development skills, whatever it is that you want to learn about, that's what you learn about, and then you filter the rest of the stuff? Was it about shifting your mindset? Okay, a lot of people don't think about it in terms of abundance and scarcity, again, because a lot of times I can kind of get a little woo-woo, but it's true. And if you think about it and you practice this, you will find similar results, I am willing to bet. Either way, whichever way you decide, all these different tips and techniques, whichever was the one idea that you got, action brings results. So make sure that you go back and you figure out what that is for you. Take that one thing, and let's say it was Gmail filters, and then you take action on some of those today. Don't be perfect. Don't do a bunch of them. Just do one or two. Get the idea down, and then get better at it the next day. That's how you do this. Again, we're about to join the Insiders Club and answer any questions that anybody has. But in the meantime, if you are, again, watching this on pre-recorded and you won't be coming with us on this episode, but you can join us live on the next episode and hit the Insiders Club, or at least ask questions so that we can answer them there, and you can get a full recording later on. You just go to seriouslysimplemarketing.com to sign up, and we will take it from there. All right, so now the official end of the content portion of episode 37 of Digital Marketing this week. This has been how to deal with information overload. Thank you for your time, and we will talk to you next week.